Hello, and welcome to the WTF1 podcast Canadian Grand Prix review.
We are here finally.
We are. So obviously I'm not Matty. Again, I think Matty was so upset with the result that he's been sick all week. So I'm here.
Pretty badly.
It's been pretty gruesome from what we've heard. So get well soon, Matty. But and I know you guys have been eagerly awaiting this podcast. We've been getting tweet after tweet saying, when's it coming? But seeing as the race was so controversial, we thought it was actually a good time to kind of maybe breathe, take it all in, calm down a little bit.
It's not happened.
And also bring on board a special guest who was actually in Montreal when it all kicked off.
When you said special guest, I was like, so you failed?
Yeah. Oh, 100%. You were like our number 2, 3, 4th try.
Oh, wow.
But anyway, alongside Tommy. Hi, Tommy.
Hello.
We are joined by F1 journalist and broadcaster for Racer Mag and F1, but most importantly, star of the Netflix F1 documentary Drive to Survive. We have Chris Medland here joining us today.
Thank you very much. Yeah. I was waiting for applause, then you built up really nicely.
I know, right?
That was one hell of a title.
Just add the effect. I know, yeah, it's huge.
It's just Tommy and Chris Medland of blah, 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 blah.
Well, I always think, like, if we have somebody extra special on, like, they need a full
title.
Full-blown intro.
Yeah.
I'm going to ruin all of this intro now, you know.
Okay.
Like, extra special, and I'm going to talk absolute rubbish.
Okay, great.
Cool.
It's going to be completely worth
it. Yeah, big time, yeah.
Bro, okay. Finally. Yeah, great. So I think, Tommy, you had a question for Chris right off the bat, didn't you?
Yeah, so you mentioned about the Netflix documentary. I just wanted to know, obviously a lot of our audience will definitely recognise you from it. How did that come about and what was it like being involved in that?
That's an actual question. I thought you were just going to give me stick.
No.
They asked in Melbourne. I think it was James Allen just sort of went round saying they'd asked for a few different people and just asked for a few of us to talk. And it was me and Michael Schmidt. Do you know Michael Schmidt, the German journalist? Started having to chat in the paddock and they'd record it. And then I think they thought realistically it was going to be hard to edit together. So when they got later in the year, they just said, can you come in and answer some questions that will fill gaps in between? So yeah, it was just kind of right place, right time. It was cool. It was really cool to do. They were pretty good as well at not telling you what to say. A lot of people are like, oh, it's all scripted. It's like, no, they just come and ask your opinion. Yeah, they wanted to know. I mean, there's obviously loads that they didn't use, but they just wanted to know, what do you think of this, or explain that, and where you went.
Were there any bits where you were like, damn, I said a really good bit there, and they cut that out?
No, there were a few times where you were giving a really good answer, and you feel like an F1 driver almost, where it's like, someone's asked you a question, you're like giving a really nice, clear answer, and then at the end, you just absolutely ruin it by not finishing the answer. And you have to redo it, and it's not going to be as good. So
it's a little bit like hosting a podcast. I always feel like I'm going to mess this up. So bear with me, guys.
It's fine.
Probably going to trip over about a million words. But great to have you. And again, we just thought because you were there.
You were there, man.
You were there, man.
Yeah, you don't know.
You can provide some pretty interesting. Well, I'm hoping it's going to be interesting. It could be completely boring.
Debatable.
But just for everybody at home who were watching on the television, raging probably, or raging at the people that were raging, because there was a lot of that going on Twitter as well.
All the rage.
I think it's going to be some interesting insight. So I think we're just going to have to get straight into it. It was, I was going to say, kind of setting the scene, pretty surprisingly for Canada from my perspective. Sunday actually opened up with all the makings of a pretty epic race. We had, we all knew it was going to be Ferrari's best shot at a race win since Bahrain. They came through with Vettel getting pole, Ricciardo delivering Renault's best result since Robert Kubica took third in Suzuka in 2010.
Good memory. Didn't even have to look down for that.
No, not at all. Definitely don't have a bunch of notes in front of me. But and obviously Lewis crashed out in FP2, had some hydraulics problems on the grid, had the problem getting away on the formation lap. It was kind of like building itself up to be like, something's gonna happen here that's not usual. But
I think a lot of people were hyped for the race because you did have that mixed up grid.
Yeah.
You had Verstappen at the back, Renault's in the mix. I mean, who would have thought a Renault would be ahead of a Mercedes on the grid? Crazy.
No idea where that lap came from either.
Yeah.
Like just suddenly appeared in fourth. You're like, something's gone wrong here.
And what I really loved as well was how Cyril and Daniel basically just did like a victory parade lap through the entire paddock, speaking to all the media, and it was as if they'd won already. Like, it was so funny watching them kind of. It was almost like Daniel was Cyril's pet, and he was like come on now. Or like a favourite child and just kind of speaking to one of them. Look how brilliant and amazing he is at what he's done.
I think they really needed that, didn't they?
Yeah.
Like, it'd been a long time coming. And it was
Yeah.
just like, right, just take the opportunity. Especially because if it doesn't really go well in France, that's going to be really a lot of heat on. So it was like, yeah, we'll use this right now.
Well, yeah, we might touch on that a little bit later. But so anyway, and also the other thing was that it was exceptionally hot, wasn't it, for the Canadian Grand Prix? So everyone was kind of a bit worried about brake temperatures, tyre temperatures, and obviously with Canada being a usual one-stopper, maybe that was going to spice things up a bit if people were going to come into problems or have to run differently than they were planning.
Yeah, I mean, Pirelli always give out their sort of preview that says, this is the best strategies for the race. And they were like, the best one is a one-stop. And they're like, the next best one is a one-stop stuck on a different tyre. And then they were like, much slower as a two-stop. You're like, great. So that's a lot of variety that's coming out of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, when I thought the race was going to be boring, I was very much preparing for the whole speech about 2010 Canadian Grand Prix was meant to be the race where, everything happened for Pirelli, where they said, make the tyres like this, let's have a multi-stop race.
Yeah, 4 stops, wasn't it?
And again, it was a easy one-stop. So, not great.
No, but then the drivers say, give us harder tyres so we can push. And then you give them harder tyres and go, we can't push enough, or we have to still look after them. It just can never keep
Never
them happy.
seems to work, does it?
There's just no way of doing it.
Absolutely not. So anyway, the race gets underway and it all looks kind of, pretty good. And then Lewis starts closing the gap to Vettel. And we're like, yes, everyone's kind of like,
it's happening.
Here we go. We're going to get a proper race on our hand. And then...
I don't know if anyone else has this same feeling, though. I actually said it in the media centre, was when does Seb make his mistake?
Yeah.
Because it just felt like at some point he'd make an error and Lewis would be passed and that'd be it. And we'd all be talking about how it could have been a great race, but it didn't end up being one.
Well, because he made a slight error, didn't he? I can't remember if he was in the same place, but he made an error where he got a bit of a whopper on. And I think it was Channel 4 coverage, so it might have been David Coulthard, actually said like, he's going to have to watch it because Lewis is after him and another mistake and he might not hold on to the position. And lo and behold, we get another mistake. So obviously I'm sure everybody has seen this image over and over and over and over again.
The video again and again and again.
I missed it. What happened?
So Vettel runs wide, like locks up, runs wide, goes over the curbs, and then squeezes Lewis into the wall.
Ooh, naughty.
Sounds controversial.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? Wish I'd been paying attention.
Yeah, I know, right?
It's been good to talk about for a week, hasn't it?
Yeah, I know. It's so controversial. In fact, when we asked for our fan 3-word race reviews, they were pretty definitive in what they thought about the incident. So at itsme_m.b says, what a joke. At Brewster141 says, robbed from Vettel. And Sven Coulson actually goes as far to say, FIA kills F1. And when we did an Instagram poll, it came out that 85% of our Instagram followers that took part thought that it wasn't a penalty, which I think from what we've seen seems to be the general mood. But we're about to grab the popcorn and find out what Chris's 3-word race review is, which is, Chris?
Vettel robbed himself.
Spicy.
Care to explain?
Continue.
Well, because, yes, I agree that the way the rules are written, and I'm sure we'll go into it in more depth, but that it's not nice that was a penalty. That's not what anyone wants to see. But we don't have this issue at all if he keeps it on the track. If he doesn't crack under pressure from Hamilton, if he just drives basically how you'd expect Lewis to, calmly, just picks his spots. I mean, that's not an overtaking spot. That's not a place where in the exit of it either that you'd expect to come under pressure. So you don't need to be pushing hard into that part of the track. And for him to make a mistake was almost, kind of sadly predictable the way Seb's been over the last sort of 17, 18 races.
So we've kind of touched on it in previous podcasts, but from what we've heard, it's been a case of Vettel doesn't feel comfortable in the car, like the car has enough grip. So do you think that might have come into play, or do you think that was just him cracking under the pressure of Lewis?
I think that one was him cracking under the pressure of Lewis. I think that was... because for most of the weekend, he was really strong. Like the pole lap was very good. And that came when Lewis had gone and stuck it on pole. So it was hard for him to fight back from that. But he'd had enough time to get comfortable with where Lewis was strong, when Lewis was pushing, when Lewis wasn't. I mean, we were a long way into the race at this stage. And I think it was just the fact that Lewis had come again and got within DRS again. Every time Lewis got within a second, you realised, Seb's not comfortable here. But he didn't need to go beyond the limit because it's so hard to pass. And every time Lewis did get close, he did have to drop back because things overheat.
Yeah.
And Seb would know that. He's raced in Formula One enough times. So, it was just kind of, I don't know, just so disappointing. You're just kind of willing him to just pull it all together and keep it clean. And when he didn't, it was, almost predictable. But, I just didn't see. I mean, there's never the need for a mistake, but it definitely didn't seem like a time or a place where there was a need for it either.
No, definitely
not. I will say that, I mean, Hamilton did make a mistake as well, didn't he, at the hairpin when that was arguably one of his best chances to get by. He was within DRS. And I think it pretty much sums, you make your own luck in F1, but it pretty much sums up Vettel's luck that, again, he's made arguably a small-ish mistake. It's a big one. It had big consequences. It was a small mistake. Like, they both had a moment, and Vettel's essentially has blown up into this massive thing, whereas Hamilton made a mistake, and it was like, he's just run a bit wide.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think he made it 2 or 3 times. He kept making it into that corner because he was trying to get close and put the pressure on. But I think it's also that's a corner where you'll get away from it with it.
Yeah.
You can go a bit deep and you can run a little bit wide, and it costs you for that next straight, but you're still going to be close enough to pick up a slipstream and pull it back. Whereas that's the thing I don't get. If Seb had made a mistake there, then maybe you could see, he's trying to sort of break the toe a little bit, or it's a place he thinks is crucial. But turn 3 isn't crucial when you're not under pressure. It was a strange place for it to happen, and
not seen many cars go off there from what I can remember.
Well, this weekend I don't think anyone did. No. So it was just a really odd one, and I think there was traffic in front of them. I think they were coming up to that maybe distracted him a little, but. Yeah, it just seems to be that Lewis is in his head. He knows, as you say, like making your own luck. He knows that Lewis just seems to take every opportunity, and Seb himself hasn't for a long time now.
There was an interesting comment, and I forget who said this, so apologies, but that it was, do you think that Lewis fully knew what he was doing and kind of positioned the car to make it look more like a bigger deal than it actually was? I think it wasn't Villeneuve, actually. I think it was Villeneuve came out.
Villeneuve had his usual hot take.
That was
it. Something a bit controversial.
He basically said that, yes, Vettel made the mistake, but actually Lewis could have positioned his car differently, that it wouldn't have looked as big of an issue to the stewards.
Maybe, but that's well within Lewis's right.
Yeah, exactly.
To go and stick it there.
I feel bad for almost slightly agreeing with that, because one thing I did write down is that it kind of takes 2 to tango, if you like. Hamilton's going into a gap that was always going to close, and he gets on the radio and mentions it's dangerous, but you could just always go for a gap, and then if they close the door, go, he's closed the door.
Yeah, like Lewis did it to Daniel, didn't he, in 2016 in Monaco?
So we got sent that a million times, which I feel like is probably worth mentioning at some point.
At Twisted755 says, swap the roles round and take Lewis versus Ricciardo Monaco 2016. Why was that not penalised as opposed to this when there were such similar instances, do we think?
One little part of it was the fact that in Monaco you can't basically run someone out of road because the road ends at the wall. Whereas Lewis was technically forced off track because all 4 wheels had to go beyond the white line on the exit, even though there's only just space for a car. But they technically said that was one of the reasons. It was like a 2-part penalty and unsafely rejoining, and I guess they felt that Lewis had already rejoined safely in Monaco and then done that blocking move. But it's a strange one because I think Monaco you just get away with more.
Yeah, because we were talking about how Monaco this year, after that... The incident where kind of Max ran Lewis off the road and Lewis rejoined again and squeezed Max massively. And again, I guess the similar thing is that
it's not a natural line into the corner that he's going into, but
he technically did squeeze him, and it wasn't even investigated. It was just like racing, off you go.
I think half of the reaction in Monaco is, it's so hard to overtake anyway, that any incident that someone didn't get past in, they're like, it's because it's really hard to overtake here.
Yeah.
Whereas in Canada, I think they were thinking, well, if the space had been left, he was definitely easily by, and that's why they looked at it. But I don't know, it's just one of those situations where also if you might have the same driver steward, but you might have other different stewards in there.
Yeah.
The regulations were different then. They're actually told now to be more lenient and let them race more.
That's what I thought. That's why I'm really confused why this was given, because I thought we were getting to that stage where people could race.
Yeah.
And, for me, I'm still very annoyed that it was a penalty. I know it's almost now people have cooled down, because let's be honest, we all didn't want it to be a penalty because it robbed us of an amazing race. And I thought in 3-4 days time I might think, oh, it's not a penalty. But what I've seen now is people saying that's the rules. Unfortunately, it is a penalty. But I think it's ridiculous that is a penalty personally, because every single driver on Twitter or every single pundit that was an ex-driver said there's absolutely nothing Seb could have done there. Yes, he made a mistake and he should be punished for that, but if that was runoff, he'd have just gone straight on and kept the position, and you go, don't do that again or you'll get a penalty. So he was kind of penalised anyway, because all he's thinking about is catching his car.
And you could argue that Lewis, if he knew how that outcome was going to be, and if he could have been aware that maybe there wouldn't be a penalty, he may well have just timed it later, that he'd have made the move into turn, what would have been 5 or 6, because if that's going to be your one shot, you're thinking, how do I take advantage of it? So there's still different ways. I mean, in a sense, just because Vettel made the mistake didn't mean Lewis had to end up ahead of him.
No.
It can be that the driver makes a mistake and still recovers and stays in front.
Yeah.
So
that's what I mean. For me, it is literally the definition of a racing incident, because he's gone off and it's an incident.
I feel like we need to move that glass from you, because you're going to get more and more angry as this goes on.
I know. So I don't think you've kind of skirted around this, Chris, being a journo and everything, but what do you think it was a penalty?
It was given, so yeah, it was.
No, but do you agree?
No, I
that it was
felt when they were looking at the decision, I was getting more and more worried that they were going to give it, because it was taking a long time, and I thought that basically don't do it. When you do, yeah, exactly, because it was going to ruin the race, and it did. Yeah. And but then when you do look at the regulations and what it was given for and what the stewards have to work with, it's actually hard to go back to them and say you're wrong for this reason. But if they've been told to leave things alone and let drivers race more, that is their get-out clause, I'd say. So I felt like that's why they were wrong, that they could easily have turned around and gone, they said it was close, it was borderline, it definitely needed looking at, 100%, because I think that there's a few people described it as 60-40 either way.
Yeah.
I think you can look at it like that. There's no way that Vettel's blameless.
No.
And also I think Vettel was quite happy that he ended up where he ended up to stop Lewis coming by. But yeah, I just felt it shouldn't have been a penalty. They should have been allowed to race on. And as you say, I mean, if Lewis had made the same mistake from behind and rejoined in front of a back marker or someone like that, they never would have penalised him for rejoining unsafely. So it's just because
it does feel like the kind of thing that happens in the midfield maybe 2 or 3 times every season, and there's no investigation. But because it is such a controversial
and pivotal
moment in deciding a race win, they almost have to investigate it.
They have to at least look at it.
Well, you look at, was it Grosjean complaining at the Perez pass? And now, you see, I thought, strong pass. I got stick because we did on Twitter some karting joke in Bahrain where I got basically the same thing done to me, and just to annoy someone, we put it up and said, "Here, decide on this." I got smashed out the way, and then this incident happens. It's exactly the same, and I was like, "Yep, fine, absolutely fine." But in that, Grosjean complains because there was contact, and you could say, well, then Perez wasn't in full control of the move if he had to touch the other car to make the move. Didn't even look at it, did they? No. I think they noted it and said no investigation.
Yeah, no investigation needed.
Happens a lot in the midfield, I find.
Yeah, I think you're right, and that's gonna probably not make Seb feel any better, is it, to think just because the cameras were on you at that time and it was a really big controversial moment that they looked at it, whereas if you're a midfield runner, it doesn't matter. It's
given fuel to the fire of people that think there is some kind of, even though it's absolutely ridiculous to think they're favouring any particular team or driver or anything like that. It's just like you say, if they'd have used common sense and said, this is where we just allow racing, it would have not given fuel to all these fans that are showing, Monaco 2016 and going, oh, why isn't Hamilton getting a penalty?
Well, that's actually very good, Tommy. You've led me on to my 3-word race review, which is better communications needed. And
catchy.
Yeah, very, very catchy. But it's something that we've been talking about for a while, and I was lucky enough to be invited to the FIA Steward Seminar at the beginning of the year, and as part of that, we had this big conversation about how can we better communicate the stewarding process to the wider public, and also to kind of look internally at how are they doing things and how can they improve their processes. And so my point is, regardless of how you feel about the penalty, it just highlighted that the communication currently is not good enough. So and one of our fans at Felix_670 said, why do these stewards, who are a majority are not racing drivers, get to judge situations like Seb's that should require more than just knowledge of a rule book, but actual real race experience? And that in itself just explains completely that nobody really understands who the stewards are, 2, their background, and 3, what they're actually doing and what they're looking at. So we were, and actually when I was even Googling this, because obviously I'd had an insight and I'd been shown exactly what happens. And Chris, I'm sure you and the rest of the media are very aware of who's doing what, how and when. But if you Google the stewarding process and how it works, nothing comes up, right? So I put something quickly together from what I could find. So essentially, there are 7 key racing officials, right? 5 are nominated by the FIA. So that's the race director, a permanent starter who's responsible for lights out, and then 3 additional stewards. 1 is the chairman of the stewards, who is kind of in control of everybody and is deciding what is and what isn't ultimately a penalty. And 1 is an experienced former driver. So for this race, it was Emanuele Pirro, who disgustingly got so much stick from the public.
That's not cool.
Yeah, that was not fair enough.
Insanely unfair.
Because no one actually knows either in that decision process
whether he was.
Yeah.
He might have said
he could have been the one that
penalty.
was fighting for everything for it not to be given.
Yes, and then so the remaining 2 officials are nominated by the National Sporting Authority of the country hosting the Grand Prix. So they're 2 representatives from the country, but they form something called the Clerk of the Course, who is mainly an operational person, and then 1 additional steward who could be anything. But every single one of them has to hold an FIA super license. So it's not like they don't know what they're doing.
And so I went to that same seminar you went to the year before, and what I did find interesting as well, of course, they have to go through every level and work their way up to get to that point. So it's not someone who you can't just sort of prove that you know the rule book really well and have looked at other decisions and agree with them or anything like that. You have to do it and get the experience to be allowed to sit in those seats. And one thing that's clearly changed in terms of explaining decisions this year, though, is losing Charlie Whiting.
Yeah,
because
100%.
after races, I think it started last year, maybe the year before, but the FIA were very good that they put Charlie up after every race. On the Sunday evening, he'd do a press conference, normally in the main press conference room, so you could get a lot of people in there, sometimes even in his own office, but he would explain decisions to the best of his ability, even though he wasn't one of the stewards making those decisions, but obviously he's part of the process and overseeing a lot of it. And sometimes he'd give his own opinion on whether he thought it was right or wrong or what could be done differently, but it meant you did get that explained to you.
Yeah.
And now he's gone, that's actually stopped. Like Marsley hasn't been put up so far, but I think that's because it's still fluid about who will do that job permanently. And it would be unfair to really have had someone in that position having to do it right now.
I would not have wanted to be
fair.
him on the spot like that, with everyone kind of chomping at the bit over why on earth it was allowed to happen.
Exactly. And he'd be having to defend the opinion of other people rather than his own, essentially.
Exactly.
So it would have been really harsh. But that's one of the bits of transparency that's disappeared a little bit this year, and not through choice. So we can sort of give some slack for that. But realistically, the whole stewarding process is one that could be explained better. But it's the same, I think, in a lot of sports. You hear like refereeing decisions in football, or I mean, rugby, we get to hear stuff great on mic all the time. But in a lot of other sports, you don't get the referee or the official come out afterwards and explain why they made a certain decision.
No, but I guess
But it's
the difference,
one person, right?
difference is you can see the referee making the decision. Or you can see him referring to his line officials and going, was it or wasn't it? And you can see them having a discussion and going, well, this happened here and blah, 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 blah. And in other sports, it just feels like that whole side of sporting, because regulations are still massively important in sport. You know, without rules, it'd just be mayhem. But you still get to see, you're right, rugby is probably one of the best examples, where not only do you get to hear what the ref's saying, but you have the TMO video, and you can almost see frame by frame exactly what the official's looking at in order to see if it was a knock-on or a try or whatever. And being a part of that process, I think, really helps people to understand what it is that they're looking at, and then the moment at which they say no try or try.
Yeah, because imagine if in rugby, if you didn't get to see any of that and they just go, it's no try, all the fans are going to be outraged because they go, why not?
And you'd still,
and you don't get to see it.
People are still going to be outraged with the decision regardless, but I think having that level of understanding would really help people. Because, I mean, this is something I was going to ask you, but in terms of, so the stewards come to a decision, and then from the media's position, then what happens?
We see it on the TV screen. Same as everyone else.
Yeah.
We get an email eventually that explains it as a document, but that's the same one that just gets officially handed out to the teams and comes out later than the actual decision appearing. Normally, sometimes you'll find that it's at the exact same time as it appears on TV. You suddenly get an email and everyone's like, ooh. But it doesn't explain a huge amount.
No, actually, I have the one from the weekend. So it essentially just says, fact. Yeah. Car 5 left the track, rejoined unsafely and forced another car off track. Then it says, decision, 5-second time penalty. And then it says, reason. The steward reviewed video evidence and determined that car 5 left the track at turn 3, rejoined the track at turn 4 in an unsafe manner and forced car 44 off track. Car 44 had to take evasive action to avoid a collision. How is that giving a reason? Apart from listing, according to Article 38.1 of the FIA Formula 1 sporting regulations, like...
Again, but it comes up to...
That's not the reason, is it? That just says that you can actually appeal under that.
Yes.
I think that's what it says.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the little addition. We want to point out that anyone can review this under Article whatever. And this is my problem. This is as if a lawyer has just written out a sanction and sent it to everyone and gone, here's why. This is what it is. Sport is not like that. Sport is emotive, passionate, and there's real people and real feelings involved. And I just think that leaving it to this, especially just giving, I mean, this information is needed, right? This information is needed by the media in order to write the reports, but it's just not, for the fans, especially at home, it's just not good enough.
It's massively overregulated as well for me. See, you saying that there's 7 people going through rulebook after rulebook and analysing everything in slow motion. It's something that's happened within 1 second. Everyone was saying all Vettel's was going through his mind was how to get back on the track. And for me, the perfect tweet for me is Mario Andretti, who tweeted, the function of the stewards is to penalise unsafe moves, not honest mistakes as a result of hard racing. And for me, that is perfectly, it explains what happened. He was racing hard. He made a mistake. He made an honest mistake. If Hamilton had come alongside him on the straight and Vettel had turned into him on the wall, yes, give him a penalty.
And there are obviously plenty of examples where that has been the case, where you can totally see that a driver has purposefully put themselves in a position where they're either going to cause a collision or block someone.
One thing I was actually completely shocked by was I was trying to find old incidents of people ramming each other into the wall, and Vettel got the same penalty points as Kevin Magnussen in Baku when he nearly pretty much killed Gasly by putting him into a wall at 220 miles an hour. And you go, that is really dangerous.
Yeah.
Vettel's is an honest mistake. He's not thinking, I'm going to ram Hamilton here.
No.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think that's so that point exactly is it makes everybody think that the stewarding system is inconsistent. I think that's a word that we hear it very often.
But it is. Because they're different stewards each time, they're going to come... And part of it even is, you mentioned that explanation. You look at some explanations you get at different races, they'll be huge because they will literally go through every tiny little detail of why they count something.
Yeah.
But then I was just came to me now, the incident in Spain between Stroll and Norris when they collided.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to remember who the driver steward was at that one. It'll come to me later. But they were explaining that they just kind of said to them, 2 young drivers, you weren't fighting for the points. You both could have done better here. Learn from it. You've cost your teams hundreds of thousands of pounds by having a collision. And realistically...
Naughty children.
Yeah, almost. But they were like, you were both willing to have a collision when you shouldn't have been.
Yeah.
You were both felt that you were in the right, so therefore you weren't going to back out, and you'd rather have the accident and then say, well, it wasn't my fault. And because they were both in that situation, it meant they were both partly to blame. And that's why there was actually no further action. And that's 2 guys that were taken out of the race. So I think when you look at then an incident where you could say that, okay, Hamilton was not willing to have an accident and that's why he backed out, but Vettel hadn't as you say, put himself in a position saying, I'm willing to have an accident. It was just the kind of consequence of a mistake. So that's where, if you applied that same logic, again, you'd need those other stewards from Spain to have been applying it in that case. But if you apply that same logic, you might get a different outcome. And that's why you get those inconsistencies.
And there's all these rules and all these stewards and 7 stewards and all this massive rule book, and it's still inconsistent.
It was Danny Sullivan. Sorry, it just came
Okay.
There you go. Well remembered.
Because I saw him at Indianapolis and he explained it all. And I just was like, I can't remember his name.
Because he 100% listens and watches.
Of course he does.
This
Hi, Danny.
podcast.
How's it going?
So I guess my question for you guys is there a fix, do you think? Does there even need to be a fix, or does there just need to be kind of a change in format?
I think it can be improved. I don't think you'll ever fix it because you'll never, as you said, sport is it's so emotional. People are going to have different opinions. I got the same exact result when I did a poll. 85% said wrong, but 15% still said they felt it was a penalty.
Yeah.
And I've heard other people give really good arguments, or ones it's hard to argue against.
Yeah.
In terms of the way the rules are. So you are never going to get everybody agreeing, and that's good because otherwise it'd be really boring. Can you imagine this podcast right now if we didn't have this?
We have nothing to say.
Yeah.
It's a penalty, wasn't it? Yeah. The end.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. Moving on. But at the same time, that certain things can be learned from it and improved. And like you say, maybe it's even just a clause that goes in that says, if it's the result of what the stewards believe to be an honest mistake, because if they've got access to telemetry and they've got as many onboard cameras as they've got, they can probably try and determine that. That's why you have a driver steward, someone who has that mindset to know what's an honest mistake and what's taking advantage of a situation. You add something like that and maybe you don't get a repeat. So I think we can tweak and improve it, but there's no obvious, you can't remove every rule and say, just let them have at it, because it would be carnage.
So we should make Article 38.1A-B.
I mean, that's tricky, but you look at any sporting regulations, like we talked about rugby, but I bet, we don't actually pick out the article number, but I bet every time that there's a TMO decision, they're probably looking at a law of but they must be looking at a law of the game that's numbered and sounds really geeky if you actually said, law 2.431 says, if the ball slips forward, it's a knock-on. Yeah, obviously. But, that's it's going to be categorised that way. It's just for some reason, F1, we love to actually pull out the names because they're in the decisions. Yeah,
and I think also, having sat in, so part of that seminar that Chris and I have both been to, they do, were you there for, the mock?
Yeah, I did one.
You were a steward?
Yeah, it was Mark Webber and someone, I can't remember where.
Did you get abused on social media afterwards?
Oh yeah, but I get that daily anyway. That's just for being me. But what I actually found astonishing at that point was that some of them, so you had a group where it's different people from different roles of the FIA that all had to do it anyway to get an understanding. Some of them had no clue how one of these should be written at all. I think I was the one with the best idea of it, based on the fact that we've seen so many of them. Yeah. And that surprised me, but also shows why they put people through a process so that you get to a certain level of consistency. But that's still, it's never going to be every week in, week out.
I think the thing that surprised me the most was that it was almost like a courtroom scenario, but where there are hundreds of lawyers rather than one or two, because they would all of a sudden, someone would put their hand up and go, yes, but have we considered this? And then someone else would go, yes, but in my opinion it was this. And it's surely if you've got a rule book with this many rules, it should be black and white. I mean, I know, again, sporting, it's not, it's down to kind of perceptions at the time, but it blew my mind as to how much personal opinion came into play, and it was kind of like they had to just become a jury at the end and then go, well, the majority decision is this. But no wonder it takes so long.
Yeah, that's true.
Right?
Yeah.
Because when you've got a room, this was a room of 250 people, so yes, there were more opinions being thrown about, but it was incredible how they would kind of, when they were interviewing, say they were interviewing the team manager or whoever was playing the team manager, and it was just and again, it was a bit of fun at the time, but it was just, I was sat there and just thinking, how does anyone make a decision when everyone's chirping up and going? And obviously, when they have situations where team managers or drivers get called before the stewards and they have to kind of defend their actions, and that's fully courtroom drama. I mean, I would love a camera in there when they're deciding that. That would be great TV. But so when they're kind of putting against their defence, they then have to take the defence into consideration. And it's just I don't know any other sport that is that complicated.
It was quite funny because I think, was it Alex Albon and Carlos Sainz had an incident in qualifying where Sainz blocked Albon.
Yes.
And apparently afterwards, Albon was cool about it and fine. I think it was this incident. Sorry if I'm getting the two drivers wrong that were explaining it. But then when they got into... it was definitely this. And Sainz was explaining it on the Saturday afterwards. And they went in to see the stewards. They had to go and say their piece. And it went from Albon being like, yeah, I got through and it happens. And, Sainz apologised. It's like, what are you going to do? To then when you stood in front of the stewards, completely different sort of explanation comes out because the team that Toro Rosso want a penalty for Sainz because it could help them go further up the grid. So they're saying, this is really costly or it was dangerous. And what they say in front of the stewards is different. So, like you say, it's kind of like you just make your legal case rather than what you actually would admit
that leads into my three-word race review quite well.
Oh, Chris, you're learning the flow here.
Except when I ruin continuity, but never mind.
No one needs to know that.
Yeah, so my three-word race review is Stop the Snitching.
Ooh.
And for me, kind of echoing Vettel's press conference a little bit, which I'll appreciate is a little bit ironic because he's done it himself. There's no denying that he's not. Yeah, Charlie. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. He's done it. By the way, I thought he was almost going to say he was retiring the way he was doing this speech. There was one point where I was like, is he just about to announce he's retiring when he was doing this thing about how he's fallen,
stir the rumour mill,
how
Tommy.
He's fallen out of love with F1.
I thought we put that one to bed.
Do you know what I mean? I was like, oh, wow. But for me, I don't like this complaining on the radio that it's become... Again, I hate to keep bringing it back to other sports because it is a different sport, but it reminds me in football when people surround the referee and they go, oh, look what he did, and it's influencing them. I personally didn't like that Toto saw the incident, he puts his hands in the air, and then his first immediate reaction is to press a button and get him a penalty.
Yeah.
Grosjean got the inside.
But Lewis came on the radio first and said, get on to race control.
And he was like, we're onto it.
Yeah, they'd already
done it.
Yeah,
it's instant. Of course it is.
And it's just throwing people under a bus. And then obviously you get them on social media saying, oh, what a great sport Lewis is, getting him on the podium after they've thrown him under a bus.
The PR voice.
They're sharing the podium together. Great respect between the two champions. But also we kind of dobbed him in.
Yeah.
But to be fair to Lewis, he actually said after the race that he'd have done the exact same move.
Of course he would.
If he'd made that mistake, he said that's just what you do.
And Vettel would have been on the radio and said, race control. That's racing, right?
Yeah, that's how it... But it just should be that they both complain and they're told, get on with it.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly. Yeah. Right, we can end the podcast there. That's it. That's the end of it. But I think one of the people that you're going to bring up is so one of the fans sent in this question at TSNOS_T. I love these handles, by the way. Can you please make them a little bit more complicated? Because I love reading them out. Why does Grosjean always protest fair overtakes? We kind of touched on it a little bit before, but I think that's
annoys
when
me
it's
a lot.
Annoying, right?
There's no driver I dislike in F1, but Grosjean tests me sometimes because I'm like, please stop complaining. I even tweeted it from the WTF1 account. I think I said something like, Grosjean team radio in 3, 2, 1. And sure enough, instantly, there it was. Get on the radio, complain. It's so bad. I'm sure everyone does it, but it's just disappointing.
Yeah, the one thing I'll give them maybe a bit of leeway for is if you're in the car and you only get that one incident, that one moment, and if you're caught him by surprise, if he wasn't expecting it, there's a bit of contact, and then straight away he wonders how bad it maybe looked, probably some embarrassment that he'd been caught out himself, and then he goes straight to the team and says that seemed unfair. If you then showed him the footage from off-board or let him have 2 more looks at it and then said, you still want to say that's a penalty, probably wouldn't say the same thing.
I can't remember the exact incident, but I feel like there was a moment where maybe 3 or 4 races ago, Sky... Oh, it might have been... was it Leclerc overtook Grosjean in Monaco?
Yeah, and
the clean move.
Yeah,
that was his clean move, wasn't it? Yeah. And they were actually interviewing Guenther Steiner at the time, and they said, what do you think to that? Because Grosjean had come on the radio and complained, and he was like, no, it's fine. He should just be getting on with it. So even his own team principal is saying, stop complaining.
He should manage every team. His team management and his driver management is just... When he came on the radio after Magnussen was mouthing on, I actually stood up and applauded. It's like, thank God someone is telling these people. I mean, they're under a lot of pressure. They are driving around at over 200 miles an hour and almost crashing into each other. And and he obviously wasn't having a very good time. And if any of us were in that situation, maybe we'd do the
high
exact
pressure
same
and
thing.
stress. Yeah.
But thank God someone is on top of it and just going, shut up and get on with it. And I often,
it was like a child, wasn't it? It was like a parent.
oh
telling
yeah,
off a
100%. He's like, well,
naughty child.
we're not really enjoying this either, Kevin.
Yeah.
So and
You
it's all
crashed
your
the car.
fault. Yeah, exactly.
I'm just surprised he didn't swear in his radio message, because
Yeah, true.
he does like to make sure the message gets through. I think that showed how just despondent they all were at that point. He couldn't even bring himself to swear. But Steiner's one, the whole Netflix thing that made him huge. And now I actually think he quite enjoys the fact that he can be like that. Maybe he even was worrying for a bit that, or maybe I'll go a bit far sometimes, and he's realised no, people respect
People
it,
love
but
it,
the drivers do too. I mean, to be fair, how he has a relationship with Grosjean still,
I know.
after some of that stuff, but they get on really well because they appear to, because Grosjean has been delivering better than he was this time last year, and it's the car that's the problem, or the tyres that's the problem. So Steiner's just so matter of fact. He's like, yeah, the drivers aren't our problem right now, it's the car. But then if the team knows the car's a problem, he just goes to the driver and goes, yeah, we know, shut up. So yeah, it's
that was great. Wasn't
it is refreshing.
It was funny.
It definitely was. Sometimes I think maybe he just needs to go into places like Ferrari and kind of give him a bit of a.
He could be the steward.
He could
The
be the
steward.
steward.
He just won.
Yeah,
Just the one.
Guenther Steiner, just
he
the
just
steward.
says,
The one to lead
this
them
is it.
all.
Yeah.
Well, there we go. Let's get it. FIA,
Yeah.
if you're watching, we vote Guenther Steiner should be the one.
But he needs a direct radio line to every driver so he can explain,
Yeah.
shut up and stop moaning, get on with the race. Be
Yeah.
perfect.
I
That
love
would
that.
be it. That would be amazing. I'd love that.
I love that. Well, let's keep talking
We've
about
fixed
other.
F1.
Exactly. You said, is there a fix? We found
We
it.
We
fixed
found
it.
it.
We've
There we
done
go.
it.
20 minutes
Again,
into it.
now we can end the podcast.
Yeah.
Speaking of other drivers not involved in kind of any race control controversy, at HT Ryogi. See, they're getting better. What do you guys think about the Renault performance? Is this the breakthrough they want, or do they still have a long way to go?
It's funny you say no controversy there.
Well, yeah.
Because
a bit.
Ricciardo got a few questions thrown at him for his defence against Bottas.
Oh, but
Did he?
wasn't
and
that?
Bottas himself said, yeah, I thought it was borderline, but then he's like, but I like hard racing, so I didn't complain.
That's
Which
interesting.
I was like, respect to Bottas, because it was costing him at the time, and
That's
even
funny,
afterwards he could.
because not long before this, me and Dan are having a chat, and we're saying that probably, without kind of going, if it was someone else, but Magnussen or Verstappen that have got that reputation,
Yeah.
that might have been brought up a bit more, that was some questionable sort of car positioning.
Yeah,
if you
totally
like.
agree. And I think the fact it was on Bottas, who wasn't very vocal and wasn't someone to immediately get on the radio and complain.
And
but
didn't get a penalty for pushing him off either, did he?
nope. And it
Didn't
was
investigate
it
it.
wasn't even looked at.
Yeah.
No.
So it was, but it was the fact that Bottas said that what Daniel was doing was waiting for him to move and then moving so that it would break his momentum. But you can't make
No,
two
you
moves.
can't.
No, you can't.
So it was. You could see an argument there, but this is why people complain about inconsistency and
Exactly.
things like that. And again, actually, like you said, when it's not crucial to the very front of the race and who wins it, somehow doesn't seem to come under the same
It's a
scrutiny.
midfield car, it doesn't matter. That seems to be the
Almost, yeah.
Yeah, but Bottas is a title contender.
good joke.
And I said that. So,
Fastest
Yeah.
lap could be crucial.
Oh.
Get
Well,
enough of them.
actually, while we're on fastest lap, I did have another question for you. What's your opinion on fastest lap? Because for me, it looked quite fun in Melbourne, and now it seems to be the token point for the person that's the worst of the top teams get a free point. And personally, I think it's become a bit farcical.
Kind of. I think I'm all right with it still because it's better than nothing, I think, in that sense. At least someone goes out and does something. Plus, if you bring in if it was always the driver in sixth, if you bring them in each time, then one of these days a pit stop's going to go wrong and someone's going to get something wrong, or someone might make a mistake going after that fastest lap. But I think the clerk was also asked to come in and decided not to, or said he didn't want to, because he thought he might get to the top two. But if he'd been brought in, then you've got two guys going for it, and they've got to take a bit of risk if they're going to do that.
a head-to-head shootout for the fastest lap at the end of the race would be pretty entertaining.
Yeah, it's just, and certain races when it was really done and dusted and pretty dull, which is like Melbourne really kind of was,
Yeah.
then it does spice things up a little. It's just, I think it's better than not having it. And I also do think that drivers do go for it anyway, or used to want to.
Yeah.
And it was more frustrating hearing a team sort of engineer go, you're never getting the fastest lap, even if the driver probably could get it, just to make sure they didn't take any risks. You wanted them taking that risk. You want them to go for that stat.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's the end of the world. It's not It's not fixed F1, but I don't think it's been a bad addition. It's sometimes you get these things and you think, well, it's not made anything any worse, so I'm all right with it.
Yeah.
Quite boring like that.
Yeah.
You happy with that answer, Tommy?
Not really, but yeah. No, I'm
Sorry,
joking.
mate.
No, it's fine.
What was the Renault question that I completely dodged by talking about the block?
question was, do you think this is their breakthrough moment?
No.
That's pretty unanimous, I think.
It was a good race for them. I mean, you wouldn't have expected them to be in the mix, but they're still a long way off from where they need to be, aren't they, really?
Yeah, they don't have consistency, if we're talking about people struggling for that.
Because they've been not even the best of the midfield recently.
No.
And then suddenly they're up there out qualifying a Mercedes. Kind of a shock, really.
It was
did
a
not
big
expect
surprise.
that.
And I just think that car isn't as strong all round as they were hoping it would be or it was last year. So I think there's going to be more circuits that they are scratching their heads at than they're doing performances like that. But it was a good, they did execute it well. They did well.
Yeah, absolutely. Although Hülkenberg was saying that he was very upset about the team order that was given.
That made sense, though, didn't it, really? I remember watching it in closing in, and you think, I might have tweeted it at the time, you think, don't do it would be peak Renault with the way the season's gone to go, okay, we're going to let our drivers race because that's what we said they can do, and then they take each other out. So it's sensible just to call it off at that point.
Yeah,
as boring as it is.
Yeah, we'll all be at home going, no, let them go for it. But
it's funny, again, though, that we're almost guilty of that, forgetting about the midfield. If that was Ferrari or Mercedes, we'd be making such a huge thing of it.
Yeah.
And I was like, what team order? Oh, yeah, that. Yeah. It's just you don't expect it in the midfield.
I think it's because it's just not shown, is it?
Yeah.
If you're watching on TV and it's like, oh, it's closing up, and you're like, this will be good, and then it's called off, you're unhappy. But because you never see it and you only find out afterwards, you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Driver of the day.
Stroll.
I think I'll agree, actually.
Ooh.
Yeah. We're in agreement.
Yeah.
There we go. I mean, he did have, considering he's not made out of Q1.
His qualifying is poor.
It is, but so I had to defend him recently and I was very much on his qualifying's been really bad, and this has nothing to do with the fact that I did an interview with him in Montreal and he explained everything. And I was like, yeah, no, he was actually in a lot of that. He just seemed really calm about it. He's like, well, Sunday's when the points are, so I'm more worried about that. Yes, I'm working on it, but we'll get there. And he said, but you need a car that's quick enough to get you out. Now, in Monaco, I think especially, he was one place behind Checo. I think it was Monaco. Maybe it's 2 places. The gap was 1 and 2 places in the 2 races before because the car's just not been good enough. So, understandably, if Perez is going through the Q3, you've got big questions being asked. Yeah. And that's kind of how it was at the start of the season. There was a much bigger gap. But that gap's actually got closer as the cars kind of got less competitive. And again, like Perez wasn't in Q3, was he, in Canada? So I felt that I think the gap there was about half a tenth between Perez and Stroll in qualifying, and Stroll had the old engine in.
The old engine, yeah. So
I felt you couldn't really beat him with that one, and then really good performance in the race. So I feel like he does need to break. Yeah, he needs to break that run, but and he clearly that is a weakness of his is qualifying. But I think sometimes it's overplayed a little. Yeah,
because we've said in previous podcasts that it kind of looks like he doesn't even want to be there at some races. Like he's very grumpy.
I think I sent you I don't know if you saw this, he did a track guide for F1's official YouTube channel.
On Montreal.
And if you watch it, if people go have a listen, he's like, okay. And he literally is sighing as he's going around turn 3. He doesn't want to be there. He could not be bothered.
Do you think he's trying to get the Kimi persona and just failing?
Well, he's not. He's not Kimi.
Because he can't do that because then people give him criticism for his background and silver spoon and all that kind of thing. But that's the first time I've ever seen him happy in God knows how long. Probably all season.
He was delighted most of the weekend. Yeah, he was really pleased with himself, and I'd say understandably so. I thought that was a good drive.
Okay, so obviously Vettel won 24% of the vote and came out as driver of the day, which doesn't surprise me, but we're going to overrule that and make Stroll. So with that in mind, what would we give Stroll in our ABCDEF1 ranking? So A star being the best.
No, he's not A star.
What would we give Stroll?
Do you do plus and minuses in this? I was meant to check this.
No.
We try and stick to the rounded letters if that's such a thing.
I guess you'd have to give it an A then if you're saying he's driver of the day.
Okay. So let's continue then. What would you give his teammate, Perez? That move on Grosjean was pretty good.
That was, one of the few really nice overtakes in the race because everything else seemed to be basically DRS.
But where did he finish in the end? He came
quite a way down. He didn't have the greatest strategy.
12th, out of the points.
Probably a C.
And
it wasn't.
Considering Stroll got to P9.
And he had the updated power unit.
Yeah.
C.
A C?
C. Let's give him a C.
You likened him to Kimi Räikkönen, so what would you give the Iceman? I just feel like we don't ever see him anymore.
Yeah,
like
that is weird,
isn't it? They don't
it?
show him on TV, and then he just never really does anything. So you're just kind of like...
Alfa Romeo seem almost a forgotten team at the moment. You just...
Apart from Giovinazzi just causing collisions and spinning the car.
Yeah.
Like maybe he knows that Alfa aren't getting any airtime, and he's just going, all right,
we need to
I'll see about that.
Yeah. Here you go, sponsors. Drifts it
back
into turn.
Yeah. I did hear his radio message after that was just like, was that good enough, guys? And then drove on. But no,
I totally believed you for a second.
What?
I was like, that was not enough sarcasm in your voice just then. I can totally believe you.
99% of what I say is sarcastic.
Okay.
Most of this podcast has been. You guys have been serious. But
this is WTF1, right?
Yeah, exactly. Kimi, I think, would probably be a C as well because
just about.
Yeah, I mean the car isn't good, but then he didn't have a particularly good weekend either.
So he started 17th and finished 15th.
And Giovinazzi outqualified him and
did,
raced
finally.
And we lost two races. We got 2 DNFs.
Yeah.
So C because he turned up. Giovinazzi for his pirouettes.
Did he finish ahead of Kimi?
He did. I want to give him a B, but then he spun.
Yeah,
He finished 13th.
Solid. Like a better race, but making mistakes still.
It's a C, but above Kimi's C.
Okay, all right. McLaren had a mixed bag.
Weird
Obviously,
race.
Lando with his very strange suspension melting situation.
That was different. I felt for him actually because he'd put himself in a good spot and his start seemed to have been a problem.
Yes.
And he got his elbows out and held off Verstappen at the start.
That was good fun to watch
he was racing
as well.
Verstappen, which fair play in a McLaren.
Yeah.
So
that was good.
Until his tyre just decided, nope.
Yeah,
can't be bothered anymore.
I think he went off on 2 consecutive corners and then was like, "There's something." Oh, there's definitely something.
Yeah, I think he came out. I think I've got a right puncture. No. The entire suspension part of your car is on fire. And then he just parked it very neatly. So we didn't need a safety car. God damn you.
I love how retro it was though that we just left the car there.
I know.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
We need more of that in Formula 1. We need more cars just littering the place. Just stick them in view, but safe.
So I kind of want to give him, and he had a really good qualifying.
I'd say B.
Yeah, Lando did nothing wrong. He's a B.
All right. What about his teammate?
I'd actually give Carlos similar because he got screwed by strategy. Well, not strategy, but they had to bring him in. I think he had a visor tear off in his brake duct.
Yeah, he did.
Straight away, didn't he?
Yeah,
Very
lap
early.
3. And Pirelli, on the grid, Pirelli were like 50 laps at most on the hard. After that, you're really struggling. And
he was a sitting
67
duck at the end, wasn't he? He got overtaken by Stroll and Kvyat
within 3 corners.
Yeah.
But that all happened. Yeah, one, it was late. So I think he still finished only 2.5 seconds off the points. And if he'd have managed to drag himself into the points there, because he'd actually qualified better, hadn't he, and then got the penalty.
He had, yeah.
I'm going to give him a B as well.
Okay.
Let's go for
Let's go for
agreement.
Let's go for a team with similar kind of bad luck. Toro Rosso. Albon, obviously, with the DNF. Again, it wasn't a great... Because I'd put them in, which we're going to touch on in a second. But I thought Toro Rosso was going to finish best of the rest, and they very clearly didn't. Had a bit of a rubbish weekend the entire weekend.
No one got blamed for turn 1, did they? It was just a racing incident. It was just
Albon actually said
squeezing.
he thinks it was his own fault more than anything because he was too tentative and left the door open for Checo. And then he said when it's 3-1, the guy in the middle has to try and back out of it.
Sounds like his team are going to start having words with him like, don't admit it's your fault.
Yeah, exactly.
Or protest it
Stop
later.
being
He's
so
such
honest.
a nice guy, isn't he?
Yeah.
Like, he's just like, yeah, it's my fault.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
But okay, so Albon, what are we giving him?
Give him a C if he says it's his own fault.
C, yeah.
A C. And Kvyat, his move into which turn was it? I had it on
Turn
my
1.
notes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my word. That
Good
was
move.
like Daniel Ricciardo
late
sending
lunge.
it, like
Yeah, he was
late
good.
lunge. I thought that was very good.
Nice to see a non-DRS pass.
Yeah,
Yeah,
They're
exactly.
I
rare
mean, there's a
in
little bit
Montreal.
of DRS, I think, isn't there? On
A
that
little
straight,
bit, but
yeah.
not.
You're
And
right,
he
it's
finished-
all on the
It's not the
brakes.
back straight one where it's.
He got a point. He finished 10th.
I'll give him a B.
Okay.
just.
Yeah,
It'd be
B-
more
B-
of a C plus.
Well, I think
B-minus.
with how, like you said, the car wasn't that competitive.
Yeah.
No. And I feel like, again, like every time I mention them, I feel like we have to give them their own little special report card. But Williams, George Russell.
George
George
Russell
gets a B.
finished a minute ahead of Kubica, didn't he? or
What is-
something?
Yeah,
I think
that's
Kubica
crazy,
did an
isn't
extra stop
Did he?
and then complained that the car was turning sideways in a straight line,
Wow.
as opposed to turning not sideways. It was. He said from very early on he was having trouble, but there does seem to be quite a few times this season Kubica says about the problem.
And haven't they swapped the chassis now or something?
They looked to do it. They
Apparently.
actually did
Oh,
it.
they didn't do it. Yeah.
They might have. But I think was it the incident in Baku stopped them doing it at least as quickly as they planned
okay.
on. I think George did well. I mean, he beat Magnussen on pace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
He's doing everything he can. I'd
Yeah.
give him a B.
George is impressive. I think as impressive as you can be in a Williams.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's hard to give someone an A for where he finished, but then, and he said he made a little mistake that let Kubica through at the start, so that's why it's a B.
Okay. B.
Okay. And then Kubica.
D.
I think D sounds about
Ooh, I
right.
think we've been giving
Is
him
that
D's
even-
across the board, so
Yeah,
that's not good.
great.
Okay, let's try and fly through some of these now. Haas, Grosjean.
C.
Yeah, had a bit of a nothing race. Magnussen,
God,
F.
D.
He ruined his weekend.
I'd have gone E.
E.
No, we're not doing E's. There's no E's.
Yes, there is.
What?
It's
You don't-
A, B, C, D, E, F.
Yeah, but that's just to make it flow and sound nice. There's no E's in your school grades, are there? You don't get an E. It's a D or an F.
I got an E at school.
Yeah, I think you can get an E.
You get U's as well, can't
Yeah.
you?
Yeah, they go U. That was the
Yeah.
one.
Right.
So
Should
we're
we
not
give him a
giving
U?
the
I
No.
reckon. Well,
no, let's
No,
give
he's
him
got-
he's
he's-
got an E.
He'd got himself to Q3 until he crashed.
Right,
And he
I'm-
crashed in style.
Yeah.
I'm the chief steward and I'm giving him an F.
It's this
Renault.
inconsistency that's going to really annoy people.
Renault. Daniel Ricciardo.
A.
Yeah, even with the questionable defending, I think
Yeah.
it was such a solid. I mean, he outqualified a Mercedes. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah. If you stick it fourth, you're allowed to defend illegally. It's fine.
Yeah.
Nico Hülkenberg.
B.
B, yeah.
Not as good, but still a really decent race.
Yeah, if
Okay.
they'd been allowed to race, might well have beaten Daniel. So
Max Verstappen. Again, solid
Again,
fifth. But
finished
he did
ahead
come
of
out.
Gasly.
He did come out and say, yeah, and
he would
there
have
was
finished fifth.
was it Will Buxton's stat was that he's done a whole season
yeah.
now and he's always finished above his teammate.
yeah.
That's impressive.
That-
Canada,
no other F1 driver apparently has ever done that. Canada to Canada, and he has finished above his teammate.
especially if you think the amount of times Verstappen's had a grid penalty.
Yeah.
Even at the end of last year as well, where he started 17th, 18th,
Yeah.
to still finish ahead of your teammate. It's pretty mega.
Insane.
And if you think of where he was 12 months ago,
Yeah,
would
exactly.
you ever put money on him
Yeah.
doing that?
Just relentless consistency.
think-
Maybe even an A.
Yeah.
Like, we've given him A's seemingly every race. He's just not really doing anything.
But
wrong.
it's one of those where could he have done any more?
No.
And not
Probably
really.
not.
He
No.
said
Yeah.
if he'd have started P5, he'd have ended P5 because he just didn't have
Sure,
the
I agree
pace.
with,
but
yeah.
So we're giving him an A?
Yeah.
Okay. The curious case of Pierre Gasly.
Terrible.
See, I'm going to defend him a little bit
Really?
Aw.
because qualifying wasn't great, clearly, but he was in Q3 and they went for a weird strategy. He was
Yeah.
sent out on his
That was
own and it just didn't seem to
terrible.
work. And in the race, Red Bull got it wrong, not him, because they tried to pull him in early to undercut Ricciardo and got him stuck behind Stroll, and it dropped him further back. So I feel like I'm going to give him a C because he didn't do anything special to get out of that trouble, but I feel like Red Bull put him in it.
Yeah. I mean, he could have overtaken. Like, you feel he should have got past, do you think?
Well, he's said that as soon as he got close to, I think it was Stroll who he needed
Yeah.
to get past, that everything was overheating.
Okay.
And Merck said the same about Bottas from lap 4 or 5. They had to back him off. That's why he didn't go carving through everyone because of overheating. It was hot, but
Yeah.
and again, you could blame the team. You can blame the driver for not cooling things well enough. It's kind of a combination, which is why just kind of sees like a meh.
He looked pretty beaten up after it, didn't he? He
Yeah.
looks not in a good state at the moment.
No, he needs to.
He needs a good result.
That was his chance as well. Starting ahead of Verstappen on the road,
Yeah,
that was his chance.
and I think he lost out to Hulkenberg at the start as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
I
believe
think
so.
he dropped a
Yeah.
couple of places, or at least
Or was
one
that
place.
Bottas did? Yeah, either
No,
way.
Bottas lost to Hülkenberg at
No.
the start. Yeah, but there we go. Okay, Charles Leclerc turned up, did his job, came home P3.
Consistent, but not anything special. To say that he's massively hyped, you thought he would maybe beat Vettel. Like, people are saying that he's so much better than Vettel and all this, but
He can't get
Q3
right,
He can't get Q3 right.
I think he's just not used to getting to Q3 and having to go better. It used to be getting to Q3 was the big one, and then that was it. And now he has to step up a level at Q3, and he's not quite doing that.
He stopped giving his best in Q2.
Oh, shout out to Ferrari for forgetting to tell him and almost
that you could compete.
He almost finished second.
I think though, could you imagine
if he'd have
jumped in Vettel's reaction? Yeah.
And then
I think that was
why
probably,
did Charles
that was
finish
probably
ahead?
driver
We
management.
forgot. Ooh.
Yeah, that would have been even worse if they'd have forgotten and he'd got it done. But then if they'd have told him and he'd done it himself, it would have caused him even more headaches.
Exactly, and they don't need any more headaches. So maybe that was like purposefully managed.
Well, they should. We talked about it afterwards, though. They should have dropped or tried to get Seb to drop back to back Lewis up to Charles because they had nothing to lose. If Lewis was going to end up ahead anyway,
that's fair.
whether he passed you on the road or not, you might as well take a risk to do that. And then you might say to Charles, okay, like stay 5 seconds behind Seb, so he still finishes second.
Yeah, like Hamilton in Abu Dhabi in 2016, literally parking on every apex. That would have been really good to watch. I didn't even think about that. That would have been great.
And I think Vettel would have been on board for it because it would have been Ferrari getting justice rather than...
Do you want to scream Mercedes?
Two fingers up
exactly.
Mercedes.
Because obviously it would have still been, we know you've just had the race taken away from you, but we're going to try and give it to Charles now. That would be a difficult message to send, but it would have been entertaining.
And then he could have even told him drop back 5 seconds on the last lap.
Yeah, exactly.
Done. Right, okay.
We need to be in charge.
So what are we giving the two of them then?
C for Leclerc, B for Vettel, just because he made a mistake. I know people gave him driver of the day, but I feel like that was a bit slight
that was a pity.
protest
Yeah,
that was a
totally
pity
agree.
vote.
That was for stuff that happened that wasn't driving, like swapping the boards around and having a nice tantrum, which was justified.
Sass.
Which
Incredible.
people, and I think rightly so, people came out and said, imagine if Hamilton had done that.
Yeah.
There would have been outcry. He would have been slammed for doing that. But I think because Vettel's I can't believe I'm saying this, but Vettel's the underdog.
Yeah.
That people want to see them getting like upset and see that kind of fight for justice in small.
Yeah, people love
ways.
the underdog story, don't they? I mean, people were. It's funny that when Vettel was dominating, everyone was like, "Well, if Hamilton got the best car, he'd wipe the floor with everyone." And now it's happening. You go, "Well, it's just the Mercedes that's the best car." People love to.
Yeah. I mean, this is something that I tweeted. I don't think I ever got an answer. I don't know if you know, Chris. But what happens if a driver doesn't go to the podium? Is it a massive fine?
Yeah, I think it'd be a huge fine. We would look
not to put you on the spot
because it's in. There's a lot of things that they have to do. That
let me just check Article 32A.
Well, yeah. Now you mention it, now I can recall it. There's a bunch where actually it just gets reported to the stewards. Funnily enough, yeah. Because I think one of them is if they miss. It definitely is if they miss one of the press conferences.
Yeah.
If they're meant to be in a press conference, either top 3 or if they were called to it Thursday or Friday, and they don't show, having said they were going to be there, then it gets reported to the stewards.
They have to have a sick note, don't they? If
they
they're
have
not
to have
well.
reason, yeah. They have to, and
they have to get their doctor or mummy or daddy to go. Sorry, he wasn't feeling very well.
Or special dispensation from the FIA. They have to agree,
like
which was like
grief or
the Monaco one. So Lewis should have been in that and didn't because of Niki Lauda, and the FIA were like, okay. But technically, if they could have still actually reported that to the stewards and then said, we're taking no action, but that just would have looked stupid.
Yeah.
So yeah, it sometimes gets reported. So it might actually have been reported, but it would have been some sort of massive fine and probably some lovely community service, which Seb's familiar with for the way he deals with stewards.
Yeah. Probably didn't help his cause.
No, exactly.
Yeah, maybe he'd have to go to that stewarding seminar.
Do you know?
Because Max was there.
That was the one I was in. Seb was meant to be there.
Yeah.
He Skyped in.
He Skyped in?
He was on a big screen.
Wow.
No.
Skyped in. Yeah.
I wonder if Max knows that, because Max was there.
To be fair, he contributed for like everything fully. It was quite funny. Watch him just sat there, just on with his laptop on his lap or on his coffee table, and he's just and he's just like watching with his like headphones in, just kind of frowning every now and then every now and then just like looking around out the window or something, and then being called back in. But he was pretty proactive, to be fair.
Okay.
But he didn't travel, so it didn't take too much effort, did it?
Okay. What are we giving Mr. Bottas? Again,
F.
Really rubbish weekend. He cannot. I mean, he said this himself. If he's looking to win the title, he can't have weekends like that. And this is what I keep saying about, like, this is the difference between someone who is capable of winning the championship, which Bottas is in principle, and someone like a Vettel or a Leclerc or a Hamilton, where they are just that next level of racer, where they make mistakes. Vettel made plenty of them last year, but he's also a 4-time world champion.
Yeah, I wouldn't put Leclerc up there yet.
Okay, yeah. I think he's
Verstappen,
had...
Hamilton.
Yeah, I think Verstappen you would at the moment.
The world champions then.
Yeah.
You know, they're world champions for a reason. They're multiple world champions for a reason, other than the fact they've been in the best car when they've won them.
Yeah, you kind of have the ones that you talk about as the greats, or within that discussion, world-class drivers, and then you have excellent drivers, but they're not quite world-class.
I thought you were going to say, and then you have Bottas.
Bottas.
I was like, whoa, savage.
Sorry, do you want to take my seat? Because that's usually what I say.
No, you've got to give him a pretty poor score. I mean, he messed up his first run in qualifying.
Yep.
This is in Q3.
Yeah.
Then his lap wasn't even good enough to beat a Renault. Then he got overtaken by Hülkenberg and couldn't get past till the pit stops.
I was going to say, but from there he was kind of like just sat and just
coasted.
Yeah, he coasted.
And then, as you said, he had the overheating problem, so he couldn't really push.
And he did get Ricciardo in the end, and he didn't complain about that.
Yeah, but
so
I still think he's pretty
give
poor.
him a D.
Yeah, I think D's fair.
Because
he didn't quite fail.
In a race where he had, he did have a pretty poor weekend. He still just kind of brought it home in fourth, which was...
I guess he didn't bin it in the wall.
He wasn't going to be any higher than third, was he? But by the end of Saturday, there was no way he was going to be any higher than third. And that was a push to try and catch Leclerc, so...
Yeah.
Disappointing when you can have such a poor weekend and you go, oh, well, I'll be fourth, so it's fine.
Yeah,
this is
what fast.
And again, not to keep Bottas bashing, as everyone says, but you're in a Mercedes.
Yeah, exactly. He needs to be. Hamilton's winning the races, and you're getting out qualified by a Renault. This is the worry because we said it in the last podcast. Sure, there's no way Ferrari are going to be in the title now. I think even Vettel himself said it's not about the title; it's over.
They're gone.
We're relying on Bottas.
And I think it's because we've seen him do it in a few races this year, where he has stepped up. And you're like, great.
You mean Bottas 2.0?
2.0. And then when he reverts to 1.0, you're just like, who loaded the wrong version?
I guess he was 0.5 in that race. Though.
Yeah.
If that.
Yeah. Ooh.
It's all in the porridge, isn't it, apparently? So.
And the beard.
Forgot the porridge.
That's true.
Right. Finally, because we have to move on because we're running out of time. Lewis Hamilton, what are we giving him?
B.
I might give him an A.
I think I'm gonna have to side with Chris.
And now we've all got to talk like this.
Well, I say if he'd have got past on track, but then he didn't need to at the end. So I'm outnumbered.
And he looked like he was gonna.
Oh, do I get to say overruled?
Yeah, go on.
Overruled.
Right. Okay. Now let's quickly look back at the predictions that we had. Unfortunately, you didn't give us any predictions, Chris, because you weren't our guest. But we're just going to look back through what
Matty.
we predicted.
Oh no,
yeah, you can have Matty's one.
No, Matty.
He got 2 full points. So
what?
yeah,
Did he?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well done, me.
So Tommy, you said Verstappen or Leclerc will hit the World Champions during the weekend, and
Which
there'll
he
be
did.
jokes about them being future champions.
Which happened.
They did.
Yeah. There was a BBC made the joke apparently on their audio coverage of qualifying that it's the wall of future champions. So. Full point.
Good one. We predicted your joke. You also predicted that Stroll would be out in Q1.
Yeah, I wanted an easy point and I got it.
Yeah.
No shame.
I said Bottas would out-qualify Hamilton. Absolutely
Slightly off.
not.
Just slightly off.
Just slightly. And I also said, as I touched on before, Toro Rosso finishes best of the rest. And that definitely didn't happen either. So that's
bad week for you.
That's no points for me. And then Matty said Ferrari will be outright quickest car. Now,
yes, I did.
Yeah. But I said this to
Vettel
him.
was on pole, so if I'm defending myself, that's what I'd say.
Is that how we're going to judge it?
Yeah, I think.
Quali pace. But then...
that's outright raw pace, isn't it?
Yeah,
How quick is the car at its fastest?
In qualifying, yeah. So, yeah, that's fair.
But the track record was beaten during the race.
Yeah, but that doesn't count.
Yeah, but that still wasn't quicker than the qualifying lap.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Well done, Matt.
Okay. Well done, Matt. And then he also predicted that... you also predicted that Gasly would out-qualify Verstappen, and it actually happened.
Well,
I mean...
I just knew it.
Right.
When you get a feeling, sometimes I was just like, that's going to be what it is.
So our fans predicted at Mimi Dimon, huge carnage in the first lap. Half point.
It's not carnage.
We lost
it was
a front
carnage,
wing.
but not huge. So
no, tiny. That was minimal carnage.
Little fragment that Grosjean had to punch out. That was great.
Drop it out of the halo.
That was good. Actually,
was
okay.
cool.
Well done,
Let's
Grosjean.
go
That was cool.
And then when he did mirror signal manoeuvre as he came back onto the track, so I was waiting for everyone. He was like, I'm turning this way.
But didn't he just slide back into position?
I think he was last when he came back on.
Was he?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. My bad. At Ginny Bean says the seagulls make a return. They did not, but the groundhogs did.
They did.
Should have gone with
on
that.
multiple occasions.
They did. Oh, did anyone see the F1 video when it was Latifi dodging a groundhog? in
Yes.
in FP1, and they titled it Latifi and the Groundhog. And I feel this joke didn't get enough respect at the time, but I said it sounds like an awful indie band name.
The TV in the ground. Yes, it does.
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
Thank you.
All
Just
right,
wanted to
there you
put
go.
that
Cover of
out there.
NME.
That was my second go with that joke. Oh, the best jokes always take two, don't they? Guys?
At Nova_Puggy, Williams win the raft race. It didn't happen.
Sad.
Yeah.
Is that because it was organised by Charlie usually?
No, it was organised by Red Bull, I was told.
Okay.
And it was just that, the burden on them every time to do it, sort all the equipment and stuff. And I think they just said,
Oh, that's a shame.
other people chip in this time, and no one did. So
That's such a shame.
Come on, team.
Okay.
that was a real disappointment, because Saturday night was always a lot of fun doing that.
Yeah. Shame they didn't do
I
it.
did see a lot of people getting thrown into the lake though.
Oh, lots, yeah. I think there was a Williams guy that got thrown in 3 times.
Does
Wow.
he just love
He got-
swimming?
well,
or
no,
is he just
I think
very
he's leaving,
easily
so they threw him
caught?
in. But they took his shoes off first, because we won't get your shoes wet.
Well,
and
that's
then,
team kit.
And then
like-
as he went to get back out, they threw one shoe in, so he went after that, and then they threw the other one in.
Oh, okay.
So he had 3 goes.
Lovely.
Carlos Sainz's trainer went in.
Just his trainer.
No,
Just
his
his shoe.
physio. Just one. It was still there, just floating. Lando went in at the end of the race,
Yeah, I saw that.
Nice.
Yeah.
along with his race engineer, because his race engineer tried to push him in first, and they were like, "You're not getting away with that."
Uh-oh.
Yeah, a lot of people went in. It's not a nice place to go.
Really?
No, people got ill last year after the
Did
raft
they?
race.
Because it look on TV, it looks like quite pleasant. No.
No.
Okay.
Not
Dodgy
particularly good.
water.
I'll if I ever get to go to Canada, I'll be sure to avoid that.
Yeah.
Okay. So predictions for France, Chris.
Can
you remember?
Yes.
I have notes
One
here
of
if you
them.
need them.
One of them was there'll be a Renault DNF, so we get close-ups of some very unhappy bosses.
And I can't wait if that does happen. I
That's a good
love a
one.
good close-up
Yeah.
on someone that's trying to maintain
Yeah.
composure, but is clearly seething underneath.
Stress level.
I'm kind of thinking we're going to get that from some of the Renault execs, and then you're just going to have people just going like, oh.
Yeah.
Because it's as much. I think Ricardo said we need to not put pressure on it being the French Grand Prix and just deal with it as a normal race weekend. But there's no way it'll get like that. This is Renault's. It's a big race for Renault. They take over that venue. So yeah, I can see that happening. Mainly because they had a good weekend last time, and
Yeah.
it's been so inconsistent.
Yeah.
Betting is that it'll go the other way.
And your other prediction?
That traffic will still be a massive problem, and loads of people complain because
That was so bad last year.
it was
wasn't it?
awful last year, and they didn't find a way of fixing it. And then they now are going to have ways, but specifically set up to help people in and out, apparently. And
But
I'm sure it'll be better,
Aren't there only 2 routes in or one
pretty
route
much.
in?
And they're tiny roads. It's just you just can't feasibly do it. And there is a
No.
bit where fans now, I think, are aware of it, and they find other ways in terms of using the buses or whatever, or they just admit, okay, we can't leave quickly after the race, or we have to go in really early. And sometimes you just do that. I mean, you hear of stories about the Indy 500, people are leaving at 5 a.m. and they have to shut the roads to let media and drivers in, and then carry on people getting in.
Spa, when did I go Spa? 2015? As a punter, I camped and everything. We were queuing up to get into the track at 5:30.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
And
the old school
And that,
venues,
and
isn't
that,
it?
and that's the camping on the circuit, literally next door to the circuit. We were at Les Combes, and you would be queuing. I mean, they're hardcore at Spa.
I was about to say that campsite is where all the Verstappen fans are, isn't it? So if you
Oh,
were
yes.
you not just going in because you couldn't get any sleep?
Well, I had actually, and I was the only one. I'd gone with my brother and my cousin, and I was the only one who took earplugs. And I don't know what I didn't know what it was going to be like. I'd never been to Spa before. No one had told me I needed earplugs, but I just bought them because I was camping, and I was like, well, maybe I'll need them. Oh my word!
What a call.
I was the only one that got sleep.
Good
Dutch,
call.
playing their Euro techno.
I was gonna say, so you missed out.
I did, and also setting off fireworks until 3 a.m.
Yeah,
so
Zandvoort is going to be ridiculous.
Yeah, that's gonna be
by the way.
crazy.
that's going to be good.
Haven't all the pre-sale tickets, I think 1.5 million people or something.
They've got. I think they sent an email out today. I think you've got
Yeah.
4 more days to register, and then it's ballot.
and
But
it's
they're
ballots
we've
because
got
they've
millions.
filled it
Incredible.
by millions.
I mean, good. I'm glad at least one circuit's got that kind of
Yeah, why not?
attention.
They like it in Austria as well. They like
Yeah.
a little road trip
Yeah,
down
yeah.
to there, which is good fun. So
Okay, so we'll see, but I think that's a pretty easy prediction.
yeah,
to
well,
be
I
honest,
wanted a
Chris.
point as well.
Yeah.
that's pretty low. Tommy,
Hamilton's going to win the race, but he's going to win it by 20 seconds at least for the nearest non-Mercedes.
I had so much respect until you said the word at least. And then I thought you were going for the exact,
exact.
figure. I was like, this is ballsy.
20.932.
no.
Yeah, so unfortunately, I think Mercedes is just going to absolutely wipe the floor with everyone in that.
Yeah.
Paul Ricard, I cannot see it benefiting anyone but them.
We can all hope.
We can all dream.
Maybe they'll get a double DNF. Who knows?
And my other prediction is there'll be some witty fan banners about the 5-second penalty, and they'll start doing the rounds on Twitter. And obviously, they won't get shown on the world feed because they won't want to be shown embarrassing, themselves. But there'll be a lot of banners doing the rounds on Twitter.
100%. And I love a good fan banner because they're
banner.
always.
Do you remember the one at
good.
Silverstone that was something like
Nico turn right?
Yeah.
Because that was after Austria where he'd pushed Hamilton off the.
That's good.
I'm going to go and search for the fan banners now. That's going to be
Do
my
it,
mission in
please.
Boricua.
If you post it, we'll retweet you.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that does actually mean having to walk out and find things.
Out of the media centre, out of the paddock, where the real people are.
Not even
real
out of
F1
the paddock,
fans.
just away from my chair.
Oh, right.
Everything just comes no, nothing. There's not actually a huge amount of fans that can get in there though. It's quite low capacity, so it might be slim pickings.
There might be some fan banners in the queue waiting
way
to
to
in the back of cars. That's what we need to look out for.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I'll still check it out in Austria because I reckon that's where you'll get plenty.
Okay.
Yeah, nice.
All right, we'll hold you to it. So my predictions are everyone's going to get overly touchy about penalties.
Yeah,
I mean,
definitely,
that's
definitely
Again,
going to happen.
leaving that super vague.
The commentators,
Easy point.
every single
And
thing.
another one, I mean, I feel like I've just been a bit of a letdown, but I've literally just written gorilla statues. That's it. That's my prediction.
Nice.
There will be
Go for 'em
gorillas.
Do
I
you
like
title
the
the podcast? Because it could just be gorilla statues.
Gorillas,
for
yeah.
this week.
Gorilla
I think-
statues question mark.
So instead of Canadian Grand Prix review, it should just be gorilla statues.
It's going to be great for SEO.
Yeah, exactly.
That's good.
Perfect.
That's
yeah.
good. Okay, fan predictions before we wrap this up. At Diogo Magawi, half the field goes through the runoff area at the start. Again,
That's
a
happen,
pretty safe bet. And at IE Girari, Ricciardo on the podium.
That's bold.
So that means Hulkenberg's got to DNF for your prediction to come true and for this prediction to come true.
I mean, who was it? What was the name of the?
At IE Girari.
I just need to remember that because if this comes true, I'm going to that guy for my lottery numbers. There's no, I just can't see that running. No.
We've got very optimistic fans. We just want a bit of change, don't we, at the top? Yeah. At Sir Plazasta, I'm going to go with that.
Yeah.
Double points finish for Racing Point.
Another bold claim.
That's another bold claim. They're not really showing too much in the way of being able to do that. But hey, who knows?
You never know. The midfield keep changing, doesn't it? Race to race.
That turn one, maybe if you do get the half the field go off, if half of them get taken out.
They take the shortcut through, and then all of a sudden they're.
There's a few
P9,
unsafe
10.
rejoins.
Well, I was about to say, now if we're going to get this whole penalty thing, if all the drivers are going to be ultra careful because might
They're
get a
not,
penalty.
though, are they?
Really hope not, but they've been a bit too sensible this season so far.
Probably because they're scared that you get a penalty if you go off track.
So now it's just take some risks.
Well, let's hope not. But that's it.
We're done.
We managed to get to the end.
Yeah.
I feel like that was a bit of a marathon one, but I feel like we needed to dive into.
We say
this.
it was
This is an
delayed.
important
We
one.
actually started this on Monday and it's now Friday.
We've still,
Yeah, exactly.
Chris has been here for days.
That's what I meant about continuity. It's been really hard to wear the same clothes day in, day out.
Yeah, I wasn't going to mention anything, but the smell's pretty bad.
Thanks.
But I am going to say thank you.
I was about to say, after
Yeah.
abusing how I
for
smell.
being our guest, because you rearranged a game of Top Golf to come on.
It never happened.
Oh, wow.
Aww.
I know, sad face.
Okay, well then you didn't rearrange anything, so you're welcome.
Well, no, I completely lost it.
Yeah.
The sacrifices that I make.
Oh, there we go. Well,
Yeah.
thanks.
Yeah,
obviously.
thanks very much.
Thanks to Chris. Real good insight. I will give you that. And thanks to everyone.
And now we'll roast you again.
Would you quit interrupting me? I'm trying to end this
Go on,
podcast.
Finish. Done.
Thanks everyone for listening and watching. Make sure you let us know what you think of the Stewards' decision in Canada in the comments on YouTube or by tweeting us using the hashtag WTF1 podcast. And also be sure to leave us a review on any audio platform that you're listening to this podcast on because it helps us out a lot. And yeah, we'll see you next time.
After gorilla statues.
After gorilla statues.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks ever so much. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. I was like, am I meant to say bye now?
Everyone says bye.